Hi, everybody. This is Loren Baker, founder of Search Engine Journal, and welcome to the Search Engine Journal Show. Today, I have a special guest, Ms. Navah Hopkins. Hey, Navah, how's it going?
Howdy, guys. TGIF.
I know, TGIF. It's been a long week. How's it been on your side of the house?
It's been fascinating. Lots of product developments. We actually have an alpha that JustUno just launched, so that's really exciting for us. But also just really interesting news and updates coming out on the paid media side, the intersects on the SEO and social side. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on it being a long week.
Awesome. So I did notice that you have a new company name underneath you, right next to your name there. So I'll let you talk a little bit about JustUno and what you all are doing, because it's really interesting to me where you've landed. And it sounds like you're doing something that's a little bit familiar, yet a little bit new.
Sure. So for those of you that know me, I kind of got my branded trajectory started off at Wordstream, which is a software that helped advertisers manage their ad spend. And I found myself now in JustUno, which is where companies are able to have intelligent conversion rate optimization, but also from a cross-platform standpoint. We help agencies, we help advertisers. And the reason actually why I landed at JustUno, I have a hypothesis, and it's kind of playing out, that first-party data is going to be central, and that paid media folks are going to have to start owning far more of the post-click experience as opposed to just that pre-click experience, and thinking about audience segmentation as an integrated approach, as opposed to say, nah, I'll just rely on native, or now you guys will get me my cookie based audiences and I'll just carry on. So I'm really excited about what JustUno and all of the players in that space, in the conversion rate optimization space, can do for the paid media folks, for organic folks, really to create experiences that earn trust, where someone is excited to give you their email or someone is excited to give you that first-party data, as opposed to being kind of a creepy stalker that follows you around and nags you, buy my thing, buy my thing.
So when I was in college studying advertising, there was one quote that I never really got at the time, but it was really popular. And it's by John Wanamaker. It's half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half, right? So, and that's a quote from like the Mad Men era. Is that still relevant?
So I think we have to decide, how do we define wasted spend? Is wasted spend just money that doesn't turn into sales? Then yeah, that's 1,000% correct. What's really interesting with digital advertising is that there's a data threshold that every single ad platform that we're going to leverage still needs to use. And so sometimes wasted spend is actually ramp up time, so that your leads in the future will actually be cheaper, or the ad platform will be able to understand you as an equitable advertiser. The other piece to this is testing. So depending on the ad platform, you might actually have to budget for A/B tests. Facebook is the default answer there, where you actually have ad set specific budgets so that you can prove out creative or demographic experiments. So I would say we have to first take a step back even further. What is waste? Is waste just money that we spent that didn't turn into conversions? Then sure. If not, I think you can always, if you can salvage the data out of your spend, nothing is wasted. It's when you cannot understand data points from spend that you have waste.
So if you're operating at a loss in the beginning in an effort to operate at quite a profit down the road based upon the data used, it's not a waste at all. If you're not leveraging that data that you're learning during this time that you're operating at a loss, and you continue to operate at a loss or a break-even point, well, then it's well wasted.
I think I agree.
Kind of.
So what do you mean by operating at a loss? Do you mean that you're just like in the red, your efforts aren't leading to sales, like there's nothing? Well,
yeah, you're not hitting your target. Like your target customer acquisition numbers or your target performance numbers or whatever, right? Even after a certain amount of time, because we were talking about this a little bit before we started. Like you said, sometimes with Facebook and their advertising is performance based, but at the beginning of the campaign, it's kind of like you're handing it over to Facebook. Like you have to spend that for its AI, I guess, to learn.
I think there's an unfortunate thing that happens with a lot of advertisers, and this is something I've seen play out across a lot of brands, where a brand will expect that without business operations in place, where they have a very firm idea of what should their customer acquisition costs be, how many leads can they reasonably take in a given period, like main business operation questions, they'll engage in digital advertising or they'll engage in digital marketing, and then they'll be upset 6 weeks in when they're not hitting target or they're not hitting goal. And I think a big part of where waste comes from is not just harvesting the data, but understanding what did success need to look like from the beginning? Like, what was that baseline metric that I needed to set for myself? Because sometimes folks will hope that digital marketing will save a dying business, but if a business was dying, digital marketing is not going to solve that problem. There are bigger problems like staff, your fulfillment, just basic operational questions that I think need to be answered before. And this might be going a little bit too tangential from what I know we were originally going to talk about, but it is an important point, and I think it's at the heart of all digital marketing, that we have to have those business equations set.
It is, and we'll back up in a second, but it's really interesting because when I first started with SEO, well, not when I first started, but like when it kind of scaled up in the mid 2000s, I guess, I was doing a lot of ORM, right? For companies that they didn't like the videos that popped up on YouTube when you search for the brand name, or they didn't like this or they didn't like that. And we did as much ORM as we could to make their presence more or less positive, but they kept repeating the same mistakes that led to people going online and complaining about them. And when you have that type of situation, I mean, you're basically
you're paying to tank your reputation.
Exactly.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
All right. Exactly. So this reminds me of a story. So I was there's a conference, Ad World, and what I found really interesting is that they're promoting, and I won't say who, but they're promoting a speaker who some people see as negative, some people love. But what was really fascinating is that they were promoting this speaker, and to me, promoting it to me, it was actually a turnoff. Like I wouldn't want to go specifically because of that. And what was really interesting is how many people, once I posted that post, jumped on the bandwagon. So hearing your story and then just thinking about that, it definitely drives the point home. You have to be very, very careful about what messaging you put out there and how much of a ripple effect XYZ thing is going to have. Like I would never put money behind a polarizing initiative unless I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt the people I was going to get on the positive would net me positive. Like there are social stances that are worth taking. Like Ben & Jerry's is a great example of a brand that does this really well. They'll stand on the side that they think is right, and they're okay losing some business because they know that they're going to get X amount more from the people that like that stance. So it's interesting when a conference or when a brand picks a spokesperson to represent them. How much does that expose them to risk of negative reviews or expose them to the problem that you discussed? They're basically paying to lose money.
Right. Right. And I still see that in ORM or anything else, which is kind of interesting. There's an expectation that there's a quick fix for everything and not necessarily fixing what's broken behind the scenes or behind the curtain. But like I said, let's back up a little bit. You have an amazing picture of a dog behind you, or a group of dogs. Is that your dog, or
no? All right.
Where did this come from? What's the story behind it?
The story behind this wall I am a anxiety-ridden marketer. I am always working. I am hyper prone to burnout and stress and anxiety. My husband, lovely man that he is, decided to paint for me the super zen background. And then I have 2 dogs and they would like to rest their heads on that wooden sill. And so he got this $8 blanket from Walmart. Sorry for commercialism, but this is $8 fuzzy blanket. So that's just a blanket that my dogs will sometimes rest. I put them upstairs, so they're not going to be guest appearances, but you at least have some dogs for me. I'm on brand.
If you ever want to catch up on dog art, check out Rob Snell's Facebook accounts. I'm not sure if you're connected to him or not, but he's gone from being
I love his hunting dogs. They are so cute.
Yes. Amazing. Okay. So Navah, you were at Wordstream before, which was a SaaS and agency hybrid. I would say. Were you there before the USA Today Gannett?
Yes. So I was Wordstream had kind of eras. I was the I would had the crossover between Larry Kim still being there to the acquisition to the second acquisition. So I was there for 5 years. And one of the things that was really nice about Wordstream is that you're able to work with and be exposed to accounts that are not just, here's this one industry in this one location. So when it comes to content and just the ability to see trends and to see where might the next thing be, I was able to get that sense of, okay, we need to really think about audiences, but certain countries are just, they're not going to have them eligible. So like, what can we do to mitigate that? What can we do from a targeting standpoint? What can we do from a creative standpoint? And then on the flip side, for where we did have those tools, okay, how are those playing out across different across the country? How are those playing out when an agency applies them versus when a brand applies them? So it's just the best thing Wordstream, aside from the amazing colleagues I got to work with, did for me was the width and breadth of data. I think it's the best gift I've gotten as a marketer, is to have been exposed to that amount of data.
And now you're at JustUno, which is a D2C, the D2C oriented conversion rate optimization solution, right? Or customer experience solution. Like, how would you define JustUno, and then how would you define the differences in, I guess, industries? Because when I think of Wordstream, I could be incredibly wrong, but I think of SMB PPC management in mass, right? Lots of different companies, lots of different plumbers, lots of different industries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the ability to hyper focus on one specific company and one specific company's offering. So what are the differences? What exactly are you doing at JustUno? And then I guess I'm also an anxiety-ridden marketer, and I think I've just I think working on the agency side for years, I just keep on like throwing gasoline on the anxiety fire, right? So I'd really like to hear how things are going with the ability to not focus on multiple clients, but focus on the I guess the voice and the positioning of one company from an in-house perspective.
Sure. So one thing actually I recognize that helped me avoid, and this is not to say agency life means you'll be anxiety ridden, but I figured out I am not meant to be agency. I am meant to be software. That's what I'm good at. So at Wordstream, my role was to be kind of this trifecta vessel that would take in where customers were getting stuck. I would look at accounts, I would help them troubleshoot. I would take that feedback back to our customer team, our product team, and then relay that feedback also to the ad platform so that they could see why were things being adopted or not. And then, of course, providing those trends. At JustUno, what's really fascinating is that JustUno is a phenomenal CRO or conversion rate optimization platform, mostly focusing with on-page. But what's really interesting is that they know how to communicate really, really well to a very specific narrative of that kind of D2C e-commerce model. The application actually works really in any CRO capacity or conversion optimization. And I did kind of an anecdotal study where I asked paid media folks, what's your interaction with CRO? And across the board, there was, we want to do CRO, but it's complicated. And what I like about, and thank you for letting me shamelessly plug JustUno, by the way, that's very, very kind of you. What I like about JustUno and kind of why I found myself there is that it takes that very complex problem and simplifies it into automated functions. Because that really is where we're going, is what can we delegate out to machines in order to simplify our grunt work so that our creative work can do well. So I'm in the process of helping JustUno message map their brand and their solution to the paid media industry, while also helping them understand what feature sets will be useful to us, the paid media folks, what feature sets will be like, we don't care, like no one's gonna need this, and what can kind of help those paid media folks bypass some of the pitfalls that are coming with first-party data versus third-party data, remarketing ideas, things like that. So I basically recreated the job that I really liked doing at Wordstream at JustUno, because I believe in what JustUno is doing for SMBs and the agencies who serve them, but also that there's a problem with a lot of software companies that they rely heavily on service to mitigate software discrepancies, and like it. Mm-hmm. I definitely see there's a big opportunity here for that true hybrid like Wordstream had. So that's my long-winded, not prepared response to that question.
Oh, it makes total sense. And this is not a sponsored podcast, by the way. I'm just really intrigued. Like, there's only so many points in there's only been so many times, I guess, in the world of digital marketing where things are always changing, but there's certain pinnacles, right? So first I think of like the early .com boom and bust, right? And then I think about like Google launching and the consolidation of search engines. And then I think about like stuff that happened like after Penguin and Panda and making it harder to game Google from an SEO perspective, the launch of PPC, et cetera, et cetera. And then, recently it's really been D2C, right? Especially the past year, especially with the pandemic, especially with, the escalation of people choosing to buy directly from the brand as opposed to buying through Amazon or through Walmart or through another marketplace, whether it be eBay or whatever, the ability to buy direct, right? So we're definitely in a boom right now. It's just really exciting to hear.
I want to add one thing that I found really fascinating. If you look at the user trends for device behavior over the past year, we're all still, as marketers, pushing for that mobile first index, that mobile first experience. But over this past year, we actually saw a 50-50 split in users on desktop versus mobile. So we're, up until last year with COVID, we all were, all right, we got to get our mobile in check. I am concerned that some brands have been so focused on getting their mobile in order that they've neglected their desktop experiences. And I think that that's one thing we can't risk. We have to make sure that just as we're getting mobile in order, we're not neglecting our desktop and having either slow load speeds or that the experience is just god awful. People can't find what they're looking for because we're banking on everyone going to the really clean, amazing, beautiful mobile experience. So it's moral of the story: don't get complacent.
It's true. You never know what's going to happen, right? Suddenly people are going to stop commuting, stop looking at things on the train, stop doing this, stop doing that, be stuck in the house, opening up the laptops a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about, you had alluded to this a bit earlier, landing pages, creative, YouTube ads, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, like when I think of PPC, I think of like writing copy for AdWords, right? I think of that little copy block and that's it. But I also haven't done PPC in like 15 years. So that explains why I think of it that way.
Google Ads rebranded to solve that exact problem.
No more words.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Google Ads still has search ads. That's where a lot of their money comes from. That's where a lot of people go first. What's really fascinating, though, is that Google Ads, as much as it's a great solution, as a first solution, a lot, especially for SMBs, it's getting more and more prohibitively expensive. And so if you look at, say, a display campaign, a YouTube campaign, local service ads, those can be really, really powerful. You have just as much targeting control. You have just as much ability to really craft those amazing solutions. So I think where a lot of people will go to Google Ads first, and they'll go for a search campaign first, and then they'll get really bummed out that it was expensive and they couldn't afford the critical mass that they needed in order to make them money. I think if folks were a little bit more honest about what their budget was, they'd have a more useful conversation. So for example, if you don't have 10K per month, granted there are exceptions, you probably don't want to start with search. You probably want to start with a display targeted either contextually or with custom audiences or with customer match, pushing your pre-qualifying information, inserting your brand into the conversation on relevant brands. YouTube has that beta ad builder where you can do 6 second, 15 second, and it's absolutely free to sign up. You just have to have a Google ad account to link it to. And those ad spots are so cheap. Like it's dirt cheap to get those ads inserted into those really useful conversations. And if you look at the creator market and you look at the content that's out there, the brand equity of your message being inserted into the conversation, it's very, very powerful. I think with Google came out with a stat, I don't know if it was this year or last year, but that 80% of all purchasing decisions that began on YouTube actually like turn into a sale. That like if you showed an ad to a user on YouTube, 80% turn into a sale. So I would, if you haven't thought about video and if you haven't thought about YouTube ads as part of that conversion conversation, you're missing out. And they actually have an audience. This is the Google ad hack that I love. If you've invested a lot of effort into your brand from a content standpoint, you can actually take people who have watched your content, subscribed to your channel, and actually make that an audience for search. Right. And so target exactly those folks. Follow up on the message that you put into that video ad. Got you.
So the video ads on YouTube are a very low level entry point that you can get into, but you can still very highly target an audience. It's still a lower price point than the ability to follow up with search afterwards, right? Because they're probably searching for something that's familiar, because YouTube is TV, right? Like, yeah. I mean, that's what it is, right? So you have the ability to run a TV commercial only to people that you want to target, which is
also amazing. Here's the other thing too. There are certain industries that are going to be so low search volume, the critical mass of sales is just it's not going to be there no matter how much money you throw at it for search until you've built the audience, you built the demand for what you do. And one other thing we're thinking about just in terms of search, Google Trends is my best friend for research and for beginning. Not because I necessarily am going to take verbatim the cost per click or the keywords that Google recommends, but it's helpful to see where in the world or where in the country certain ideas are really powerful. and which ones not so much. And so if I'm looking to get those insights, that's an incredibly powerful way to begin. But if I'm seeing that there is nothing on Google Trends, like just nothing, I probably am going to do a display or YouTube campaign to start, not because I necessarily need to do visual content, but because there isn't enough search volume for my ad to show. And so I'm going to sit there being all frustrated and have a budget that's not actually doing anything.
What about in the world of Facebook and Insta and other video platforms, even TikTok? Similar opportunities available on those platforms?
1,000%.
Okay.
And so one of and I actually did a tweet about it this morning. Facebook and Instagram let you have your custom audiences from the get-go. Google still has that $50,000 minimum ad spend in order to use customer lists in your campaigns. So when it comes to Facebook and Insta and TikTok, like absolutely test. But you have to be very, very mindful that creative infinitely more important than when it comes to, say, a text ad. Because with text ads, you can tend to let them stay. You can prove out your message. You can allow for it to prove itself out. When it comes to the more visual bits of content, you actually have to refresh fairly regularly. So for example, if I know that I'm running a campaign on Facebook or Insta or even TikTok, I'm going to have, when I'm building, probably a month to 2 months worth of one round of content per week or every 2 weeks, as opposed to where in Google, I would just let a thing go. So it's that fundamental difference. So a marketer who's really good at Google might actually let something run too long on the social channels, and someone who's really good on the social channels might abort a test too quickly when it comes to the more traditional search channels. So you just want to be mindful about how much content you need. But yes, the opportunities are there.
You bring up a good point. There is kind of a set it and forget it mentality that can happen from a PPC, like a paid search landing page perspective. Like, hey, this thing's working. Okay, let's revisit it in the future. Whereas in video ads, especially Instagram, someone is probably going to see that ad multiple times. They're probably going to click over multiple times.
The moment that frequency is more than 3, you gotta switch it out.
Got to switch it out. And from an experience perspective, they're also looking at the in-app browser, right? Which is probably, from my experience with clicking on Instagram ads, it's probably going to serve a much different experience than a normal browser experience. So I would think that you'd have to, I've clicked over to some sites where just everything is completely off from just a format perspective, like on the site, right? CSS off and everything else.
Oh my God. All right. So one of JustUno, Unbounce, Instapage, I think Klaviyo also does this. There are options to have mobile-specific versions of your landing page, promo, what have you. You need to make sure that you're doing those. If you just count on whatever you built in desktop to carry over, I promise you it will look ugly. And your numbers will be all over the place. You will have a terrible experience and someone will bounce. However, if you build from the mobile experience and you try to carry that over to desktop, odds are it's going to shrink down, and so it will look just as bad. So you really want to make sure that you're carving out the time and the budget to have a mobile specific path and a desktop specific path. Tablets, I'm sorry, tablets, like they don't necessarily need their own unless you're a very specific brand that sees that tablet traffic is just, it's where it's at.
Yeah.
It's over there. But I would 1,000% recommend, at the very least, whenever you're about to start a new campaign, carve out that mobile specific experience, the concepts that you're counting on, the audiences that you're counting on, landing page creative, and then vice versa on the desktop. You want to make sure that you have that experience.
Yeah, tablets are a world of their own. I've seen consecutively for the past 3 years, tablet percentage usage goes down around the winter holidays because people that got tablets, like your grandparents maybe, or your kids years ago, are now having them replaced with phones and not tablets, right? So every time there is a gift-giving holiday, the tablet usage just goes down because it's time to buy grandma a new phone instead of her tablet, time to upgrade the kids, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, goodbye tablets, so long. And like, let's not underestimate the ability that targeting via Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all these video ads have, right?
I have a rule, and the social folks may want to debate this. Happy to have the discussion. If I see a campaign where the ads are targeting both Instagram and Facebook together, I'm fairly confident that was either set up by an owner who didn't have the time or someone who's just getting into Facebook or Instagram advertising. 1,000% you want to make sure that you have at the very least an ad set per Facebook versus Instagram, because the content is going to be formatted differently. The messaging is going to be different. So even if you have it living under the same campaign and you want it to have or be influenced by those same rules, you still are going to want to make sure that you at least have it separated at the ad set level.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. I was thinking of I get a lot of ads on Instagram for T-shirts and stuff like that. There's just like this. Heaven. Yeah, there's a T-shirt company. I think it's called Super Rare or Super Ape or something. It went public today. I gotta look it up. But all they do is sell $50 T-shirts, right? They sell like $50 T-shirts with like a licensed name. Like they buy like the rights to use like Muhammad Ali's likeness or name or Bruce Lee's likeness or name, and then they like sell these T-shirts that are pretty nice, but they're also very pricey, and they've been doing it like crazy. And then suddenly like they go public. I'm like, what? Like a T-shirt company, it's always advertising on Instagram is going public. That's amazing. So it's nothing to. I
have fallen victim to Merchoid. If you ever see me wearing that Merry Mandalorian sweater, that is 100% a Facebook ad that follows me around. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm worth it. I am worth that $50 sweater.
Well, I'm not going to go to the store and buy a boring $50 shirt or $20 shirt when I can buy a cool Bruce Lee shirt.
Exactly.
For $19.99, I can even get a really nice SEJ shirt at merch.searchenginejournal.com, which is super comfy. And I've had this I've washed this shirt probably 50 times already. So it's still holding up.
Now that we're halfway / most of the way through this, that this was a completely missed opportunity to wear the metadata shirt. That is my absolute favorite shirt that you guys have done. If it's still available and people can buy it, like you should, because it's fantastic.
Yeah, no problem. We might re-release that in the future. We'll see. I'm pushing for some gold foil ones, so we'll see what happens on that front. Ad platforms and first-party data. First-party data used to be a thing. Is it a thing? Can we get a hold of that anymore? Is it hidden still? What's going on that front?
So just to break things down, first-party data has always been a thing and will continue to be a thing. The ad platforms are all in on first-party data because that is how they can comply with increasing pressure and to abide by privacy regulations, so on and so forth. If you are currently eligible to use customer match, custom audiences today, the likelihood that you will continue to be able to and potentially have increased usability is 100% in favor moving forward into the future. It's third-party data that is going away. One thing I'm very grateful, Ginny Marvin, who's a Google Ads liaison, she was able to confirm that brands who maybe have vanity domains, so say for example, we have Search Engine Journal and SEJ and Search Engine Journal Show.com, and you have all three. In the old world, all three could share data, no problem, no questions asked. In today's world, you will have to confirm a 5 set or 5 domain set to count as first-party data. That's incredibly important coming from the standpoint of brands that maybe service multiple countries, where you maybe have subdomains for paid media efforts, where maybe you have an agency managing some parts of your brand and you're managing other parts. So the biggest takeaway that folks should have is not that, oh my God, campaigns are going to suck, but you need to start being friends with your tech SEOs and really come up with a game plan now for how do you want to migrate. So one of the things that I've always cited on subdomains for paid media landing pages, because it's a way to protect the main domain, but you're still technically under there. There may come a time when we have to just be part of a subdirectory that's just no index, no follow. That might be a thing. So we just need to start having those conversations with our tech SEO friends. Make sure that we come up with kind of a style guide of what does our paid media experiences look like? What do our organic experiences look like? On-page promotions may start to become more popular amongst paid media folks, simply because you want to create an experience that's specifically focused on generating that conversion. Right. Before the user hits maybe the wall of text or all of the navigation that as a paid media professional you might be afraid of. So it's not that we're suddenly going to be bad at marketing. It's just that we have to take the technical steps to be prepared.
And make sure you're underneath the main domain, right? Like, it's nice to be in a subdomain. It's nice from an SEO perspective too, because you're just like, look, just no index that whole subdomain. Subfolders.
Well, the subdomain should be no index. Like if it's just for paid media, because this is so paid media folks are going to want to do variable testing, where we might have this exact same block of text with one word swapped out. That's an SEO's nightmare. We might need no navigation bar whatsoever, and that could be terrible if you need that for crawlability. So this is where we have to start having those conversations about what is a reasonable experience as a baseline, and what are the tools that we can use to bypass where we might fight over user experience. I think on-page experiences are going to become more popular as this rolls out and as we get more information about exactly how many domains we can have moving forward. Because we currently have that 5, but I mean, it could change. But as it stands now, subdomains still can be part of your strategy. You just need to make sure that you don't have like 50 domains.
Right. No, that makes total sense. And yeah, I've worked on a number of campaigns where you come in to do SEO, and probably the most important thing you can do is cleaning up PPC landing pages, PPC subfolders or subdomains or whatever, that no one ever blocked them, right? Or they used a tool like ClickFunnels or something like that and left it on and didn't pay. So now suddenly there's an error on your ClickFunnels subdomain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that you see happening, right? And all of that does affect Google at the end of the day, especially if they've ever had the ability to access any of those pages, right? I do like the ability to kind of mind meld though between SEO and PPC, and especially a lot of what you were just talking about. So taking out the nav bar, using a navigation bar or not. Sidebar. Sidebar can be an SEO's best friend. You can put links there. You can put featured posts there that you want to get more juice to. You can put different things there. But a sidebar can cripple a PPC campaign because people just get suddenly so distracted
and like what they links off the page we want them to convert on. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's one takeaway from this discussion, set aside 30 minutes to powwow between your SEO and PPC teams. Just get them powwowing. One ray of hope I think that exists is that a lot of how Google Ads certifications function with Search Console and also Google Data Studio, a lot of those reports will pull in the same information. So as you're able to start sending, say, search term data over to your SEO team so that they can see what ideas have converted, where content strategy can be improved, and vice versa, what content strategies maybe do we have to pass on because it's going to be too expensive, or we need it now. We can't wait for 6-8 months to rank. That can be a value add, just to know, hey, this is something important to the client. Let's get our names up there. But yeah, the actual technical infrastructure, my prediction is that SEOs are going to be having a big headache around like June or July, when the migrations potentially start happening to actually start consolidating landing pages and domains. We'll see. I could be a pessimist, but that's...
Well, it gives us SEO something to do. Like, there's nothing better than a campaign that's like completely cleaned up. You've gained lots of ground. You're identifying new growth channels, but then suddenly someone comes and breaks everything. It's just like, yes, back to work again. Done. Thank you, PPC team, for doing that.
We'll break all your stuff. It'll be great.
Exactly. So the one question that kind of led us to our talk today was retargeting. And we've actually talked about retargeting a lot, right? Like in the past 40 minutes or so. But is it dead? Is it something that can continue? Like, what's going on with the world of retargeting right now?
So retargeting off of what I like to call either creepy or dumb retargeting, as in someone landed on the page and you follow them around, yes, that is going to start being depreciated. What is not going to be depreciated is the first party data relationships, where you are able to target off of that customer list, customer match list, that is still eligible for display, that is still eligible for YouTube, that is still eligible for shopping, obviously still eligible for search. That is still an option for you. So as much as you can, make friends with your CRO and email marketing teams and begin building those experiences. There are a ton of tools out there that will auto sync, JustUno happens to be one of them. Your emails that you generate from whatever promotions, whatever initiatives that you do into the ad platform. So whatever tools sets that you're looking at, definitely be sure that you're looking for that syncability. That's mission critical in today's world. The other piece to retargeting is that we are no longer going to be these individuals. We're going to be part of cohorts. The fundamental difference between the website visitor and the cohort is just, I know exactly that person went to my site and saw this thing, versus I know that this person expressed interest in this thing, happened to have these behaviors, but it's not associated with that specific person. The best way to actually think about this is in-market audiences, custom intent audiences that you're targeting around the idea of someone's past behaviors without the creep factor that you're following them around specifically. And we have seen that there is better performance off of folks in either those sorts of cohorts or where they've consented to give you their information. So you're having a consensual conversation as opposed to, I'm going to go harass you until you buy my thing, or I annoy you into my competitor's arms.
Or you harass me after I've already bought the product as well.
Yes,
and then I don't want to use the product anymore. I see ads every day for it.
There is a use case, though, that a lot of people forget, to actually remind customers once they're up for renewals to buy their stuff, or to target specifically your competitors with those people, so that if your people are looking at your competitors, insert yourself in that conversation. Remind them that there are feature sets that maybe are worth revisiting. They're one of my actually favorite examples of this. I got retargeted to by the Star Wars MMO because I haven't logged in like 5 months, and my auto renew is coming due in like 8 days, and like amazing.
That's pretty
Great
smart.
job. Great job, Star Wars. But not enough brands do that. So if you have the list, if you have those at least 1,000 people in the list, don't be afraid to remind your customers that you have value and to prospect off of them.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. And then another thing we were talking about before the show as well is I know sometimes I feel more like a lead gen company that utilizes SEO as a channel than an SEO company that drives leads, right? Because over the past year, there's been a lot of emphasis on post-click, right?
Yeah.
What happens afterwards? CRO, conversion rates, how to get this traffic into the funnel. It's not just about ranking on page 1 anymore. It's not even just about getting the clicks from that targeted ranking on page 1 anymore. It's about what happens after the fact, which I believe as an SEO is my responsibility. My responsibility is not just to drive organic traffic, but from Google and Bing and DuckDuckGo.
Well, you're also a really nice, ethical, amazing person. So
right. Thank you.
I think that's going to be the difference between which brands survive and which, i.e. agencies survive versus don't. Customers are demanding it. They're not going to settle for the ego metric if someone is willing to commit to being a partner to them and actually drive revenue. But that also requires that the customer, and we kind of touched on this at the beginning, has those business metrics in mind.
Right.
I think one thing I've seen a lot of brands struggle with is actually be able to answer the question, how many leads are you currently generating and where could that number grow to without any operational change? Or what is your average customer value? In e-commerce, it's super easy because the number's right there. But in lead gen, a lot of folks struggle. So one way I think we marketers can add value is actually coaching the brands on how to think about those business conversations so we can be partners in coming up with KPIs. Like I just don't think it's reasonable to expect a brand to come up with the KPIs on their own, and it's not reasonable for us to do it on our own.
No,
it has to be a partnership.
Yeah, and it has to be after a certain amount of time as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not very comfortable sending over expected KPIs as part of a RFP response or a proposal or something like that before I've actually worked with the company and had the chance to get into the back end and see how.
And if they demand it, that's just run. Don't work with them. They're going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, if I can get behind and see how the sausage is made or whatever, then it's fine, right? And that's part of the onboarding experience as well. It should be for everybody. Navah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Just as a reminder, Navah is a columnist at SEJ. She answers all of the great PPC questions on the Ask a PPC column, which how often is that published, by the way?
So it's officially once a month, but every once in a while we'll sneak in an extra one. If you, the people, would like more, we're happy to do more. But currently, it's once a month at the beginning of the month.
Excellent, excellent. I dropped your Twitter in here and your LinkedIn, as well as a link to JustUno. Is there anywhere else folks can follow you or find you online?
So my dog HK has a Instagram handle, PPC Puppy, where I will share PPC advice from the perspective of HK, because you don't want to listen to me. You want to listen to my adorable puppo. You also can check out my Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm always happy to share things there. I'll share a couple of things on Facebook. If you want to message me, I'm happy to help. And again, just submit your questions to the Ask the PPC on SEJ, where we love helping people. We love answering questions. And it's always a good time.
Your dog's name is HK47?
Yes. After the Star Wars character. He is my absolute favorite droid.
Awesome.
absolute favorite droid.
Wait, which one is that? Because I just thought it was cool because it sounds like AK-47.
And I am sorry, not sorry for the spoilers, because it's been years, is Darth Revan's droid. He built him much like Anakin built C-3PO, except unlike C-3PO, HK-47 is a snarky, amazing assassin who will just, he's a great party member, but more importantly, the conversation is just fantastic. He does lean dark side, so for those of you that prefer the light and the Jedi, he might not be your cup of tea, but he is a very, very amusing character.
Who roots for the Jedi? Gosh, the only time I rooted for the Jedi was in the Empire Strikes Back.
I don't know. People that are still innocent enough to believe that there is black and white.
Okay, there you go. Cool. And I'm sure HK-47 is going to show up on Disney Plus sometime soon as well. I see it's Knights of the Old Republic, so we'll see. Navah, again, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Learned so much, talking not just about PPC, YouTube ads, affordable paid media, the importance of display, but also a little bit of the business of PPC, CRO, and SEO at the end of the day, which I think we can tap into a lot more in the future. So thank you so much for getting that conversation going and getting those gears turning within my skull.
Thanks for having me. Cheers, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Search Engine Journal Show. If you like this episode, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing.